What's on the other side of that difficult conversation? If you don't have it, you'll never know. My name's Leo Manzione. I'm a business coach. I make sure that small business owners have everything that they need to succeed, and this book is one of them. This is a book chock full of strategies that will help anybody in their upcoming negotiation make sure that they really can give it their all. Why should we trust the strategies that he recommends? Chris Voss is a former FBI hostage negotiator. The strategies that he puts forward are ones that he used in literal life or death situations. So we can trust that they work. They work so well, in fact, that he showed up to the Harvard negotiation course to actually learn how things are done in the business world, and he ended up taking them to school. How? He used a specific question, one that is, how am I supposed to do that? That flipped the conversation on its head. It had his opposition explaining to him why this disadvantageous position is one that he should take, and because of that, their positions fell apart. Showed him that he really was on to something. And I think he knew that for a while, but I'm glad that this book shares it with the rest of us because these really are strategies that we should keep in mind and put into place. In the rest of this conversation today, I'm going to share with you 2 strategies from his book that I employ to great effect. I recommend that my clients and everybody does as well, because it'll help us not only communicate better, but set the stage for some of the most difficult conversations that we have. So without further ado, first we have labeling. Labeling is an unbelievably powerful strategy that makes sure that our other side feels understood. And the beautiful component of labeling is this: you can't properly label without understanding what it is that the other side feels. In a nutshell, it's you pausing and saying to them what it is that you feel that they're either saying or feeling. There's specific language here that we'll share in a minute. But what's so beautiful about this strategy is that you can even use it purposely wrong, where you can mislabel something that the other side says, and it moves the conversation forward. This is actually a strategy that Chris recommends in his book, is mislabeling it so that they say, no, that's not what I'm saying. And then they explain themselves in more depth. And when people, like I said earlier, feel like they've really explained themselves, they tend to listen. And I'm not saying that we just do this as a manipulation so that people listen to us in return, but it's a great way to make sure that we can know where it is that they're coming from. And you'll see in the exercise sheets that I recommend later, created by them, that you can use that to actually propose things that may not be as valuable to you, but more valuable to them, so that you can really get the things that are most important and most valuable to them. And again, in order to do that, you got to understand it. So the language that you want to use in a labeling situation is it sounds like, it looks like, it seems like, in order to really position their position in a way that they say this specific set of words. That's right. Now here's something that Chris explains unbelievably well, and look for it in his book, but I'll explain it as best I can and briefly here. That's right is so much more powerful than you're right, because you're right is usually what people say to get someone off their back. You're right, you're right, you're right. But that's right is you two looking at the facts together and saying, you know what, we're looking at the same set of images. And because of that, we have a foundation upon which we can move forward. So the second strategy, and this is a very, very powerful one if used correctly, is called an accusation audit. You want to list the things that they're going to say, probably pull up out of their sleeve and say, aha, I gotcha. If you list it first and nip it in the bud, it takes the power out of it. It takes the wind out of those sails, which allows you to have a much more productive conversation. I think Chris said it very well in some of the negotiations that he describes, and he describes a bunch of them, by the way. It makes the book really entertaining. But he says, I'm an a-hole, and this is why. And he completely says the things that he thinks they will be unbelievably upset about, but because he said them first, it really allows them to move forward to figure out what they can do together in this situation. The opposite approach that too many people take is trying to hide these things, and that just makes them a ticking time bomb that you're aware of and afraid of. The strategy that I actually recommend to my clients as we prepare for negotiations is I tell them, I say, what are all the things that you don't want the other side to say? What are the things you're terrified of them knowing or bringing up? And we list those. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but it's unbelievably powerful, because when somebody truly knows that anything could come up, and they're going to be ready for it, because we go through it systematically and make sure that they have a good response to each of those. They go in there feeling bulletproof because there's nothing they're afraid of having brought up. And because of that, their confidence and their inertia is something that's just infectious, can really set the stage for a really powerful conversation. So take a moment to think about the things that you're afraid of the other side saying and acknowledge those right out the gate. The last thing that he says here that I think is really powerful, because we often have filler words. I'm not talking about or like, but we often say things and don't really mean them. One of them in particular being, I understand. Now, when people say I understand, it's so often just followed by the word but, and that completely nixes what you're trying to say. So the point here is with an accusation audit, as well as with labeling, don't just say I understand, show it. My name's Leo Manzione. I'm a business coach. I help tools like this become available to all kinds of business owners to make sure that they have everything they need to succeed. If somebody wants a complimentary session to sit down and really make sure that they're headed in the right direction, whether it's my firm or otherwise, I'm more than happy to do so. I'll close out with this. If you've read the book, make sure that you get these resources. There's one for free on their website by giving them your email address and a little bit of information. Good job, guys. Good funnel. And what that allows you to do is have a worksheet to prepare for your next negotiation. The second resource that I highly recommend you all have in front of you, in front of your next negotiation, is to print out that cheat sheet. It's in the back of the book, I believe, but what good is that on your shelf when you're in the other room having the most difficult conversation of your life? Print it out, review it, circle, highlight, emphasize the things that are most important to you, and make sure that you have them on hand, because you will need that reminder then and there and in the moment. So I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much, Voss and Team Black Swan, for creating this. I'm really excited to continue implementing this within my own life, with my clients, and to share it further and further.